Have you ever woken up in a place you didn't recognize, only to realize it used to be your home? I did, but this house had changed, and now I can't leave. Not until it takes everything from me. I told myself I would never return to my childhood home. After Lily disappeared, the house became a tomb of memories I couldn't bear. My parents sold it within months of her vanishing, but no one stayed in it for long. Every new family left under strange circumstances. Unexplained noises, strange illnesses, or sometimes worse. I avoided all mentions of it, refused to let myself wonder about the whispers in town, the rumors of what people claimed to have seen there. But last week, my phone rang. The voice on the other end was faint, crackling like it was struggling to push through a layer of static. "Come home, Michael," it said, and then, in a voice that turned my blood to ice, "Lily's waiting." My heart stopped. It had been 15 years since her disappearance, and yet I knew that voice. It was Lily, older, but unmistakably hers. The rest of that day passed in a fog. I tried to convince myself it was a prank, some sick joke, but deep down, I knew the truth. I knew I had to go back. That night, I packed a bag and drove 6 hours to the house I swore I'd never see again. The house stood at the edge of a sprawling forest, shrouded in mist. The iron gate screeched as I pushed it open, and my headlights flickered like the air itself was draining them. The closer I got, the more I felt an oppressive weight pressing down on my chest. It was exactly as I remembered it. The Victorian mansion loomed over the landscape like a predator, its windows reflecting the moonlight like glassy, empty eyes. Time hadn't touched it. The peeling paint, the overgrown vines. Everything was the same as the day I left. I hesitated at the door, my hand trembling as I reached for the doorknob. The moment I touched it, the door swung open on its own, creaking like the house was sighing in relief. Inside, the air was thick and suffocating, carrying a faint metallic tang like blood. The shadows seemed alive, shifting just out of sight. I called out, "Lily?" My voice echoed unnaturally, stretching and distorting as it bounced off the walls. Then I heard it, a faint giggle, like a child hiding nearby. It came from upstairs, against every instinct screaming at me to turn back. I climbed the staircase. Each step groaned under my weight, the wood splintering as if the house resented me being there. When I reached the landing, I saw a faint yellow glow coming from Lily's old room. Her bedroom was untouched. The pink wallpaper, the bedspread, the stuffed animals, they were all exactly as I remembered them. At the center of the bed sat her favorite teddy bear, its glass eyes reflecting the room's dim light. "Michael," a voice whispered. I spun around, but no one was there. "Michael," the voice repeated, louder this time. It was coming from the bear, its head tilted slightly, its stitched mouth unmoving. But the voice was unmistakably Lily's. "She's still here," it said, its tone soft and mournful. "What do you mean?" I demanded, my voice trembling. The bear's glass eyes seemed to bore into me. Everywhere, the room spun. One moment, I was standing in Lily's bedroom. The next, I was in the foyer again. But the walls were wrong. They were closer, pulsing with a faint, sickly light. The air grew heavier, harder to breathe, as if the house itself were alive. I tried to leave, but the front door was gone. In its place was a seamless wall of wood, the grain twisting and writhing like it was alive. My phone had no signal, and the flashlight I brought flickered weakly before going out entirely. Time began to unravel. The first day, or what I thought was the first day, I wandered the halls, searching for a way out. The house had become a labyrinth, its layout shifting like a living thing. Rooms that should have been next to each other were suddenly miles apart. Corridors stretched endlessly, only to loop back to where I started. When I looked in the mirror, my reflection stared back at me, older and gaunt. At first, it was subtle, lines around my eyes, a streak of gray in my hair. But as time passed, I began to look like a man decades older. The house was feeding on me. I started hearing whispers in the walls. They called my name, pleaded for help, or sometimes just laughed. The voices weren't all Lily's. Some were deep and guttural, filled with malice. Others were faint, almost childlike. The house showed me things too. It dredged up memories I had buried deep. Lily laughing as we played hide and seek, her small hands clutching mine as we explored the forest behind the house. But the memories twisted into nightmares. In one vision, I saw Lily running through the halls, her laughter turning to screams as shadows swallowed her whole. In another, I saw myself as a child, standing at the edge of the basement stairs, staring down into the darkness as something called my name. And then I saw it, the heart of the house, a massive, pulsating pit in the basement, its edges lined with jagged stones. A faint light emanated from its depths, casting eerie shadows that danced like living things. It was there that I found Lily. She stood at the edge of the pit, her hair matted and her face pale. Her eyes were hollow, dark wells that seemed to pull me in. "Michael," she said softly, her voice trembling. "You shouldn't have come." "Lily," I whispered, my throat tight. "I came to find you, to bring you home." She shook her head. "You can't save me. I belong to it now." "What do you mean?" I demanded, stepping closer. "The house," she said. "It's alive. It eats time, memories, us. It took me when I was little, and it's been waiting for you ever since." I felt the ground shift beneath me as tendrils of shadow emerged from the pit, writhing and reaching for me. "You have to go," Lily said, her voice breaking, "before it's too late. But I can't leave you." "You have to," she screamed, her voice echoing through the basement. The shadows lashed out, wrapping around me. I fought against them, my body burning as they drained my strength. Lily stepped between me and the pit, her small frame glowing faintly. "For once," she said, tears streaming down her face, "listen to your little sister." With a final burst of energy, I tore free from the shadows and ran. The house screamed around me, its walls cracking and splintering as I raced up the stairs. Somehow, I found the front door, now wide open, spilling sunlight onto the porch. I didn't look back until I reached my car. The house was collapsing in on itself, the roof caving in as the walls crumbled to dust. And in the midst of the destruction, I saw Lily one last time. She stood in the doorway, her face serene, her lips forming the words, "Goodbye." I drove away and never returned. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear her voice in my dreams whispering, "Michael, it's not over." In the chapter 2, it's been 6 months since I left the house, but it hasn't left me. At first, I thought I was safe. The nightmares were bad, sure. Endless loops of Lily's voice calling my name. The house's pulsing walls closing in on me, but I chalked them up to trauma. Anyone would have nightmares after seeing what I saw. But then, strange things started happening. It began small. Flickers in the corner of my vision, the faint smell of mildew no matter how often I cleaned. Sometimes I'd wake up disoriented, convinced I was still trapped in the house. But I'd shake it off, reminding myself I was free, until the clock in my living room started ticking backward. I noticed it one night while I was watching TV. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but the more I stared, the more certain I became. The second hand was moving in reverse, and with every tick, I felt a strange pull in my chest, like something was reaching for me, trying to drag me back to that place. I threw the clock out the next morning. It didn't help. The house wasn't done with me. I started losing time. I'd wake up to find hours had passed, sometimes days. My reflection in the mirror showed the toll. Gray spreading through my hair, my skin growing thinner, my eyes sunken. I was aging faster than I should have, just like I had inside the house. And then came the voices. At first, they were faint, whispering my name just as I was drifting off to sleep. But soon, they grew louder, more insistent. They didn't just call for me, they mocked me. Thought you escaped, did you? One voice sneered. You left her there, another hissed. You abandoned her. I stopped sleeping after that. Last week, I found a photograph tucked into my mailbox. It was old, the edges curling and yellowed, but the image was sharp. Me and Lily, standing in front of the house on the day we moved in. I was smiling, holding her hand, but something about the picture was wrong. The house wasn't just in the background, it was watching. The windows, which should have been dark, glowed faintly. In the reflection of one, I could see a shadowy figure staring back at me. I tried to burn the photo, but the flames wouldn't touch it. The next morning, the photo was gone. In its place was a note scrawled in Lily's handwriting. Come back. It's not over. I don't know why I went back. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe the house still had its claws in me, pulling me toward it like a moth to a flame. When I arrived, I half expected the house to be gone, reduced to rubble after its collapse. But it wasn't. It stood exactly as it had before, pristine and untouched, as if it had never been destroyed. The air was colder this time, sharper. The moment I crossed the threshold, I felt it again, that heavy, oppressive weight. The house was alive, its walls throbbing faintly like a heartbeat. It welcomed me back. The door slammed shut behind me, and the shadows crept closer, pooling at my feet. The whispers started almost immediately, louder and more frenzied than before. Michael, they said, overlapping and chaotic. Michael, 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 where is she? I demanded, my voice echoing. The whispers stopped, replaced by a low, guttural laugh. The walls shifted around me, the floor tilting as the house rearranged itself. I staggered forward, trying to find my footing, but the ground gave way, and I fell into darkness. I woke up in Lily's room. It wasn't the room I remembered, though. The pink wallpaper was torn, the bed was broken, and the stuffed animals were scattered across the floor, their faces twisted into grotesque expressions. The air smelled of decay, and the walls pulsed with that sickly, glowing light. Michael, a voice said softly. I turned and saw her. Lily. She stood in the corner, her hair matted, her skin pale and translucent. Her eyes were hollow, dark wells that seemed to pull me in. Lily, I whispered, taking a step toward her. She shook her head. You shouldn't have come back. I had to, I said. I couldn't leave you here. It's too late, she said. Her voice was tinged with sadness. You're part of it now. No, I said firmly. I'm going to get us both out of here. She smiled faintly, a heartbreaking expression of pity. You don't understand, Michael. The house doesn't let go. It never has. The walls began to close in, the shadows stretching and twisting like living things. I could feel the house's hunger, its insatiable need to consume. You can't save me, Lily said, her voice trembling. But maybe you can stop it. How? She looked at me, her hollow eyes filling with tears. You have to destroy its heart. I found myself in the basement again, standing at the edge of the pit. The light emanating from it was stronger now, pulsing faster, brighter. The tendrils of shadow writhed and lashed out, but I didn't back away. At the center of the pit was a shape, a twisted mass of flesh and stone, pulsing like a living thing, the heart of the house. I didn't know how to destroy it, but I didn't have a choice. Gripping the jagged edge of the pit, I leaned forward and reached for it. The moment my fingers touched its surface, pain exploded through my body. Images flooded my mind. The lives the house had consumed, the memories it had stolen, the faces of those who had been trapped here before me. And then I saw Lily, her small hand reaching for mine. Don't stop, she whispered. With a final surge of strength, I drove my fist into the heart. The house screamed, its walls trembling and collapsing around me. The light from the pit grew brighter, blinding me, and then I woke up outside, the morning sun warming my face. The house was gone. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the empty lot where it once stood. Part of me wanted to believe it was over, but deep down, I knew better. Lily's voice still lingers in the back of my mind, whispering in the quiet moments. It's not over, Michael. It's never over.